Hey everyone, it is Michael Thorne and welcome to the AI Advantage, future-proofing your real estate career. I've got an exciting hour ahead for you, all about how you can utilize AI in real estate. And I know that you're going to get a ton of value out of it. So I just want to be very clear about what's going to happen today is we're going to spend the next hour together talking about AI. I'm going to talk about what it is, what it isn't, and then I'm going to show you a bunch of real world applications on how we're using AI in our business. But even if after this hour, you need to know we are just scratching the surface of what is possible with AI in real estate. And after 4 hours, if we got the chance to spend 4 hours together, we'd still be scratching the surface. This is such a huge, huge topic. And so this is an hour, and I'm going to try to give you a 30,000-foot view of the opportunities that AI presents in our business. So off the bat, what is AI? And this is what I think AI is. And we're recording this a couple days before you're seeing this. And so I would love to see your reactions on this. But if you know what this code is, you and I probably look fairly similar, but this is what I think AI is. AI is a cheat code, and this is the famous cheat code from the Konami games in the 1980s, up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, select if you had a friend, start. And what this cheat code did was it gave you unlimited lives in very, very difficult games. And that's really what AI is. It's a cheat code. And if you go back, if you use that in Contra, it just gave you an unfair advantage. And someone without the cheat code just couldn't really compete with you. And that's what AI is. And certainly there's great ways to use this cheat code, but in a nutshell, it is a cheat code. So I just want to give you a little bit of history about myself in real estate. I got licensed on my 19th birthday. I was an assistant at the age of 15, and I've grown up in this business, and I've seen a lot of changes over the years. In fact, this is my business card from 1995, and I figured that I could pull off the George Clooney Caesar haircut. I probably was mistaken about that. And on the card on the right-hand side, in on the hip there, that's a pager. This is pre-cell phone. But in 1995, something interesting happened. And it really shook up the industry and our society. So let me take you back to an NBC broadcast in 1995.
56 pass, I wasn't prepared to translate that as I was doing that little tease.
Oh, that's
that little
right.
mark with the A and then the ring around it.
At?
See, that's what I said. Mm-hmm. Katie said she thought it was about.
Yeah. Oh.
But I'd never heard it.
Around
I'd never heard it said. I'd always seen the mark, but never heard it said. And then it sounded stupid when I said it. Violence at NBC.
I heard be around big fight up in the lunchroom the other week.
There it is. Violence at NBC. GE.com. I mean,
well, Allison should know.
What is internet anyway?
Internet is that
Massive computer network.
The one that's becoming really big now.
What do you mean? That's big. How does one? What do you write to it like mail?
No, a lot of people use it and communicate. I guess they can communicate with NBC writers and producers. Allison, can you explain what internet is?
Now, you should be laughing because it's incredibly funny. But the reason why it's funny is because of time, right? So this is my third year in real estate, 1995. I'm walking the hallways of my office, and even the most successful agents in my office are saying things like, I will never participate in the internet. And at the time, it seemed like a somewhat rational thing to say, but now looking back, we just know how ridiculous it is. You know, the internet has impacted all of our lives in such an incredible way that we couldn't have foreseen. But some of us were able to see some opportunities, and that certainly was myself in 1995. It was the first time something came along where I thought, as a young agent competing against experienced agents in only the same things, door knocking, cold calling, open houses, and ads in newspaper, the first time something came along that I thought I could use to differentiate myself. And now think about the people that said, I won't participate in the internet. All of us, we've accidentally participated in the internet 10 times before we've had our second cup of coffee. So the big difference, however, between the internet and AI in real estate and in our personal lives is that AI is going to have a much bigger impact on our personal and professional lives. And most importantly, it's going to happen much faster. I had the honor of listening to Dr. David Edelman give a speech last fall. He's a professor at MIT. He's advised 3 U.S. presidents on technology. And the talk that he gave that day could be summed up with, I implore you to be impatient. And I too want you guys to take this away. I implore you to be impatient. This is moving so fast, and it is so important that sitting back and waiting is a really not dumb thing to do. It's something that's really going to hurt you if you're going to sit back and wait for this to happen and for you to change in the future. And we'll get into it. You're going to be making mistakes. So I really implore you to be impatient. And that's why I'm so passionate about helping agents get their head around AI. So I know this is recorded, but I want you to say to yourself, answer these questions as we go through. So I want to know what your AI journey is. Like, are you a what's AI person, meaning you're using it once a week? There's also beginners. There's intermediates. Let's take experts off the table. I think it's far too early. It's moving too fast for anyone to claim themselves they're experts. So I want you to identify which one of these you are. What's AI, a beginner or an intermediate? Now, I will tell you that when I give this presentation, about 30% of the audience, 30 to 40% of the audience identify themselves as intermediate users. And my goal is to, by the end of this hour, if you identified yourselves as an intermediate, my goal is to get almost all of you to realize you're a beginner. And that is a very exciting thing. So if you right now identify yourself as an intermediate, I want to show you the opportunities so that you realize that you're a beginner. And it's exciting because that means the opportunity is so much bigger than you realize that it is. And so that's my goal today. We're going to ask you a little later on whether you think you're a beginner or intermediate. And I want you guys to answer, see if I've been able to change your mind. So there's a couple of key questions you should be asking yourself. The first question to ask yourself is, why should you care? Why should you care? Study after study has shown the impact that AI has on quality of output and on efficiencies. There's a lot of studies. A study out of MIT found that professionals like you and me who use this technology were able to reduce time on task by up to 80%. That means what takes you 5 hours to do takes me 1. It also found that quality of output rose by 40%. That means what takes you 5 hours takes me 1, and my 1 hour is 40% better than your 5. And that's why you should care. And that's why it's a cheat code, right? So the next question you should be asking yourself is, does it work? Now, there's a lot of ways I can show you how AI has impacted our day-to-day real estate business, but this might be the easiest one to visualize. This is the web traffic to our website throughout 2023. And you can see almost down to the week when we started to use AI on our website and to improve the content on it. Almost down to the week, you can see that. Now, when I share this, it causes agents to say, okay, now what was that one prompt or that one key change that enabled this growth to happen? By the way, that growth continues to go off in the same trajectory. The key to this is that there isn't a prompt. There isn't one thing we were able to do. The big takeaway is the ability to do more better. If you're able to do more of the things in your business that generate the best outcomes, and you're able to do those activities at a higher quality, of course your business is going to grow. And so that's the key to this, is the ability to do more better. Now, I believe there are 2 losers and 1 winner when it comes to AI and real estate, right? So the first loser is very much like the agent who said, I will never participate in the internet. Agents that ignore this are going to lose. The same way there is none of those agents that says, I will not participate in the internet, There's none that still exist. It doesn't exist. You participate in the internet or you're out of the business. And the same thing is going to happen with AI. So agents that choose to simply ignore this are going to lose. Now, the next loser, in my opinion, are the agents that are going to take this technology and put it between them and the consumer, right? To find a way to distance themselves from the most meaningful things that generate business in our business, which is those human connections. If you're listening to experts, and there's experts in our industry on stages telling you to create a digital avatar of yourself to communicate with your clients, if you're listening to those experts, in my opinion, you're going to lose. So the winner, in my opinion, is the agent that takes this technology and puts it behind them, streamlining their doc prep, their business planning, their content creation, all the systems in the background, all those things that we need to do, freeing up time so we can spend more time across the table from a nervous first-time home buyer. If we are able to leverage this technology, right, to be more human, those are the things that are going to have us win. So those are the winners. So when we're talking today, I'm thinking about ways to use this technology behind us, which then pushes us closer to our consumer to build an amazing repeat and referral business. Now, today we're going to be focusing largely on large language models. And large language models as are the ones you're most familiar with. Gemini 2.5 is out. ChatGPT, which you all know, is at 03. Claude 4 just came out. Llama. And what you need to know is I have no skin in the game when it comes to these large language models. I don't know who's ultimately going to win when we get to AGI. But all the skills you're going to learn today, all the examples I'm going to show you today are applicable no matter which one of these large language models that you use. Are there some little nuances differently? Absolutely. But even in today's presentation, you're going to see me use Gemini, you're going to see me use Claude, you're going to see me use ChatGPT. But that doesn't mean you need to use all the different platforms. I'm just showing how the platforms work in a very, very similar way, right? Do I believe ChatGPT is the best overall, easiest place to start when it comes to a large language model? Absolutely. But that can change very, very quickly, and it will continue to change over the coming years. Now, when I first started talking about AI and real estate, we were talking about platforms that were text in and text out, right? So if you could ask it via text and it could respond via text, it could do that. But these models have become what they call multimodal over the past couple of years, which means they just don't take text inputs. They can take audio inputs. They can take image inputs. They could take photos and video as inputs, but they can also then create those to be outputs. And so now we're just not talking about text in and text out. We're talking about video in, text out. We're talking about photo in, audio out. They can hear and speak. I'll show you an amazing use case for its ability to hear and speak later on in this presentation. But to understand the multimodality of these platforms takes the opportunities to an absolutely whole new level. Now, there are 5 stages of artificial intelligence as outlined by OpenAI. Now, the level 1 is what happened in November of 2022 when ChatGPT 3.5 first came out. And it was a chatbot, meaning you could ask it a question, it would give you an answer, right? And so if I was at a live audience, I would pick someone out near the front and I'd say, what letter does the word apple start with? The person in the audience would say A. And they have that knowledge and they're able to answer very, very quickly because it's a very simple thing to do. But then in September of 2024, we moved to level 2, which is reasoners, which changes things, and you're going to see how much it changes things during this presentation, is now we can ask it a question and we're not demanding an answer right away. We're saying, give it some thought. So the example I give when I'm live with an audience, I'll say, listen, I'll pick out somebody and I'll say, you have all the knowledge to answer this question, but you got to answer it right away. What is the day and the month that is 23 days before your birthday? Now, they know that answer if they were given a couple seconds to think about it, but when you demand an answer right away, you are going to get a wrong answer most of the time. And that's the same thing with artificial intelligence. If we're asking more and more complicated things, it's not the lack of their intelligence to give us the right answer. It's the speed in which we're demanding those answers to come back. So level 2 reasoners have changed everything. Now it might take 15 seconds or a minute to get an answer, but the answer is much more correct, and it's much more robust. And so that's where we were with reasoners. Now, we're entering level 3 as we speak right now, and it's going to happen throughout the end of 2025 and through 2026 when we move into AI agents. And we're not talking about real estate agents. We're talking about AI agents. And this is the stage that things are really, really going to be disruptive for business owners. Now, traditionally in a chatbot, what would happen is you would ask a question and ChatGPT would give you an answer, and then you would ask a follow-up question and ChatGPT would give you an answer, and it would go back and forth and back and forth. It required you to be inside that conversation, prompting it to give you a response. So it required your effort to further the development of whatever you are working on. But AI agents are going to work completely different. So this is an example of how an AI agent is going to work. And in this example, it's very, very low-hanging fruit, but we're going to write a blog post, right? And so these are 5 different AI agents you can have in your company. You're going to have a content strategist, you're going to have a researcher, an outline writer, a copywriter, and an editor. And every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m., your content strategist on its own is going to go out and do some research about your website and recent news that has happened in your marketplace where you're doing real estate. And it's going to strategize the best content to write for your website that reinforces the content you already have, and that's very, very timely. Now, that content strategist is going to then give that off to a researcher. And the researcher is going to go online, it's going to read articles, it's going to look for facts, it's going to do some data analysis and take all that information and pass it off to an outline writer. Now, these are not real people. These are AI agents that are working in your company. Then the outline writer is going to write a perfect outline. It's going to send that off to a copywriter. The copywriter is going to write the first draft of the blog post. It's going to go off to the editor. The editor is going to suggest changes. It's going to go back to the copywriter, and it's going to go back and forth until it's finally approved and in your inbox or automatically posted on your blog post or on your website. Now, imagine your business not with 5 of these AI agents, but with 100 of them, doing all these repetitive tasks on their own, right? The same way if you were hired an employee, you wouldn't have to sit and look over their shoulder to make sure they're doing their job correctly, like we have to do with large language models right now. They're going to take action on their own. And just to give you an idea of how this is going to be impactful, now imagine that multimodality of, image in and audio out and all these things, and then realize that all those things can be connected to your CRM, your documents, your management, your calendar, your email. And you start to see how these AI agents can start doing the vast majority of the tasks in the background, right? Freeing up time, streamlining your business so you can spend more time with your clients face to face. Now, just to give you a sense of how fast AI agents are evolving, this is just OpenAI. This is just ChatGPT's launch of agent features this year. In January, we saw tasks come out, an amazing feature. We don't have time to get into it today. Then in late January, Operator came out. And in February, Deep Research came out. Now, Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, said the Deep Research feature alone can do 5% of all financially viable work in the world. And that's really, we're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars. Right now can do 5% of all financially viable business in the world. So I just really want to show you real quick how something like Deep Research works, just to show you where we are. So deep research is an agent because it's going to take time. It's going to take 20 minutes. It's going to take a half an hour to do a task. And this is what I'm going to ask deep research to do. I'm going to ask it to create the ultimate first-time home buyer's guide for Langley and the Fraser Valley. Conduct deep research to develop a comprehensive guide titled First-Time Home Buyer's Guide, designed from the perspective of a seasoned realtor in Langley, BC. And I send that off to go off and do deep research and fire that off. Now, the first thing deep research does is it asks some follow-up questions. Because it's going to work for a half an hour on its own, doing research, writing code, doing all these things, it wants to make sure that it's got a good sense of what you want to accomplish, because you don't want to do it more than once. And so you fire off the answers to all the questions, and then you fire that off again. And you're going to see this is sped up. But I've got the clock in the top left-hand corner, and it's going to run research. And I think it takes about 15 minutes to give me the report back. But you can see on the right-hand side, it's reading documents, it's doing research, it's writing code, it's crunching numbers, it's following up on questions, it's doing all this thinking, it's putting together this amazing resource. And there at 15 minutes and 50 seconds, it finishes up the deep research. And I'll show you here, this is the document that it produced. And this is something like 40 some odd pages of perfectly researched information all about the first-time home buyer process in my town. Now, once you have a document like this, you're talking about having an ebook. You're talking about 8 amazing blog posts. You're talking about 30 or 40 Instagram reel scripts. You're talking about a 2-page cheat sheet that you can put into your first-time home buyer consultation. Once you've done all this research, you can then put your stamp on it and take this information to the next level. And there's no end to the type of research that you can do with deep research to create some amazing content for you and your business. Now, this is like the only limitations that AI has for you, and it's your ability to know what you're trying to achieve. So this is a message that I got. Happy New Year, Michael. I hope you had a good holiday break. Do you have any ChatGPT prompts to help with geofarming? And I wrote back in my broken English, we don't do a ton of it, but building a crazy system would be easy to build. Do you know what you want to accomplish? And that's where that conversation sits today. I've never heard back. And that is the key thing to unlocking this cheat code for you and your business, is knowing what you're trying to achieve. Like, that's the key. If you know what you want to streamline, you know what you want to build, you know what you want to fix, and then AI can help you do it. But knowing what you want to achieve is the key. Now, this is our website. And when you hover over our menu section, it has all the links to the most important pages on our website. And you can see it's just standard hyperlinks with a line under it like you'd see anywhere else. This is not what I wanted. I wanted something a little bit more than that. Now, I know nothing about coding, but I know what I wanted to achieve. What I wanted was, instead of a link just having a line under it, I want a white line to appear to the left of the link, and for the words to the link to move slightly to the right when you hover over it. I also want this effect to ease in and ease out. I only knew what I wanted, and then I was able to put that into ChatGPT. I said that it was a Squarespace 7.1 website. I said, yep, no problem. Here's what you do. Here's the code that you're going to do there in the top right-hand corner. You can see copy code. It's going to write the code out for me, and at the bottom, it's going to tell me where to go, and it's going to remind me to click save. And now when you go to our website and you go over the menu section, this is what it looks like. Now, admittedly, this is a minor change and something that we would never have hired out for, but it's to demonstrate, as long as you know what you want, you don't need to be the expert, as long as you know what you want, ChatGPT and large language models in general can help you get there. Which brings us to a key part of it, this rule that I've created called the 80-15-5 rule. Large language models are extremely good at getting you from 0 to 80% really, really fast. From a blank piece of paper to a really well-structured outline very, very quickly. But the next 15%, that's on you, right? Now that you've got something that's 80% there, now the next 15% should be you, making sure it's in your voice. making sure that it represents your brand, making sure it's factually accurate, checking for biases, right? Putting your voice on it, especially if it's forward-facing content. And then I encourage you to give that 95% finished product back to your large language model and say, convince me that this can be better. And it will tell you 2 or 3 ways to take something that you've worked on for 15% and then take it to the next level. It's a great way of getting a different perspective. And I've got some really great prompts that help you critique the outputs that you have. But 80-15-5 is very, very important to do, making sure you're putting your stamp on it. Now, this is probably the most important slide of the entire presentation. In a little bit here, I'm going to get you into showing you real examples from all the different corners of a large language model on how you can use them inside your real estate business. But I need you to understand, just because you're looking at the examples I give you, is to not limit yourself to those examples. So I'm going to show you, how to analyze an image on a listing. I'm going to show you how to analyze some data. But don't just go, okay, that's the one thing it can do. You have to say, well, if Michael can make it do that for that information, then I can make it do this for my business. And that is the key. I could sit here for 8 hours, for 15 hours and not scratch the surface on actual ways AI can be implemented into your business to get incredible results, right? And that's why we've built the training program we have. But what I need you to do is to just look at the overall example and the techniques and say, okay, now that Michael can do that, I can do this in my business. It's really, really important to look at the trees or the forest and not the trees. Now, I get asked all the time, when should I use AI in my business? And if you're not using AI regularly, if you're acknowledge that you're a beginner or you're a what's AI person, the best way to get good at it is to start using it and seeing the results. So if you are a beginner, I encourage you for the next week, every single time you're about to do a task, ask yourself if this task can be done faster or better with an expert sitting across the table from you. Now, if you're doing a CMA, you're the expert. You don't need AI to help you. You're the professional. If you're responding to confirming a showing, it can't be done faster than you just responding to it, right? But if you have a computer question, you can sit across the table from Bill Gates. If you've got a question about copywriting, you can sit across the table from the amazing Zadie Smith, or a social media question, you can sit across the table from Gary Vaynerchuk. So for 1 week, ask yourself if the task I'm about to take on could be done faster or better with an expert. Jump on ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever it is, and give that persona of that expert to the large language model and help you through that process. And just to give you an example of how effective this is, I was giving a presentation at the Cardell Theater in Calgary. A mortgage broker brought me out to train for 4 hours her premier agents that she works with all the time. I wish my mortgage broker would do stuff like that. But this theater, it was one of those places where you just rented the room. You didn't get an AV crew. There was someone at the beginning of the morning that unlocked the room for you and said, good luck, right? And so the room is filling up. And this is what the screen looks like. We can't get the screen just to show my one slide. It's showing all these slides. And Renee, who's put on the event, we're about 5 minutes away from starting, is starting to panic a little bit. And rightfully so. There's a lot of stress putting on a big event like that. And I said, Renee, don't worry. We've got a great AV expert here in the room with us. And she said, Michael, no, we don't. We don't have an AV expert. How are we going to fix this? And the reality is you have an expert with you at all times. I took a picture of the screen. I went into ChatGPT and I said, hey, this is what the screen looks like. This is the equipment that we're using. How do I fix it? And it just, you're in multi-view mode instead of program mode. There's about 50 buttons on the pad in the back. Just go ahead and press program instead of MV mode. And that's all that it was. And we had this expert in our pocket that fixed it for us. So you have to realize that you've got an expert everywhere you go. Now, the big difference between something like DocuSign and ChatGPT, right? We can all explain in an elevator pitch, 15-second, what DocuSign is. And the reason why we can all do it is because it was built for a very specific purpose, right? It was built to get signatures on documents conveniently, securely, and digitally, right? And so because it was built for a specific purpose, we can all define what it is and what value it provides us. Where ChatGPT wasn't built for a specific real estate purpose or for any purpose for that matter. And that's our responsibility. Our job is to give it the guardrails on what we're trying to achieve. And that's prompting, and we're going to get into that a little bit. So that's the main difference. Now, the next difference is between something like Google and something like ChatGPT. When we go to Google and we ask a question, it just gives us a bunch of places to go find those answers, right? But if the answer isn't in those websites that it returns, our only option is to go back to Google and start with another conversation. Whereas ChatGPT, the moment you ask a question and you don't get the exact answer you want or the exact output, you don't start all over again. You just ask a follow-up question and another follow-up question and another follow-up question. And not only does it help you get to the answer, but it starts to build context on what you were talking about. And that is the key difference. That's why this is so magical, because of the context of it knowing in a very human-like way. You don't have to spell everything out. It knows, it can infer what you're talking about. So let's give you an example on how that works. Once again, we're going to use a blog post as an example. This is not how I'd write my blog posts, but it's a really easy example that everyone can get their head around. I'm going to say, hey, ChatGPT, generate 25 long-tail keywords targeting home buyers interested in learning more about the neighborhoods of Langley, BC. I go ahead and fire that off, and it's going to create 25 long-tail keywords that fit that need for people to know about the communities in the neighborhood. And I look through that and I go, you know what? I like number 5, Langley neighborhoods with the best walkability. So all I say is, great, now give me 3 blog post ideas for number 5. I don't have to say what it is, just for number 5. And it says, great, okay, I'm going to give you some examples. Now, you might see that my outputs are really detailed and structured in a way, and there's a reason for that, and we're going to explain that for you. It's a big, big part of it. But number 3, Willoughby versus Fort Langley. Which neighborhood wins for walkability? Now, the neat thing about this one is it pits 2 neighborhoods against each other, which is interesting. But Willoughby and Fort Langley offer very different lifestyles at very different price points, but are two very walkable neighborhoods in the market where I do. So I'm like, great, awesome. Now write me a blog post in Markdown format with H2, H3, and H4 headers for that blog post. And it has context. It knows, and this is not how I'd write my blog post, but now it's going to write it in a blog format. You see that? It's in Markdown format. It's got the title. It's got the subcategories. It's going to go through and write that blog post. And I say, great. Now I want you to write the title tag and the meta description for this article following Google's best practices. And it says, all right, I'll write those things for you. So it goes off and it knows what those limits are, how many words it should be, how it should be structured. There you go. There's the title tag and the meta description. And I said, okay, now I want you to write the Q&A section for this article, including 5 questions and answers that are most likely to be featured in Google's People Also Ask section. I don't have to mention what the blog post was about. I don't have to do anything. It has context. There you go. Frequently asked questions, number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then I can say, okay, now I want you to write a thumbnail or create a thumbnail for the blog post and include the title of the blog post. Don't have to mention the title. It already knows what it is. Let's go ahead and create this image. Now, if you happen to know the Langley real estate market, these images of the types of homes that are offered in those 2 neighborhoods are pretty accurate between Fort Langley and Willoughby. But this isn't exactly our brand. This is what our brand looks like, our team brand's colors. Those are the 7 or 8 most iconic buildings in Langley, BC, and that's sort of our brand, this sort of line drawing of it. And so I can say, okay, I want you to create a thumbnail, but I want you to use these colors, and I want it to be, this minimalist architectural linear concept. And then it goes ahead and it creates something that is right on our brand, Willoughby and Fort Langley, which one wins for walkability. And so you can see in a very short period of time in a conversation, 25 long tail keywords, 3 blog posts for each one, 75 blog post ideas, write me a blog post, meta description, title tag, Q&A section, thumbnail. Right from context. And so one of the key things about getting the most out of a large language model is you can't see it as a tool like DocuSign. You need to see it like a teammate like someone sitting across the table with you, and you're bouncing ideas off each other, and you're building context as you work through the problem. And that skill is prompting. It's taking all this knowledge of a large language model and giving it guardrails, giving it purpose, giving it structure so that you can take its intelligence and sort of funnel it down to one goal. The example I use is you can certainly go on to ChatGPT and say, write me an essay on the War of 1812, and it certainly will do that. You can also go on to ChatGPT and say, write me an essay on the War of 1812 for a 6th grade student with just enough errors to get a B so my teacher doesn't become suspicious, right? That's more guardrails, and you're going to get more of a particular output. And that skill is called prompting. And we keep hearing that prompting is going to become less and less important in the coming years, and that might be true, but it's certainly the difference between getting the best out of AI and not right now. So these are the key components of a great prompt, of a perfect prompt: task, context, model, persona, format, and voice. And their importance goes down as we go down that list. Every single time you interact with a large language model, there is a task involved, right? Write something, brainstorm something, analyze, all those things. And as we go down, context and model are really, really important, and persona, format, and voice are nice to have. So let's look at this prompt that has all those elements in it, right? In this particular prompt, the task is to write. We want it to write a turnkey playbook. The context is you're organizing a 60-minute lunch and learn for 10 top mortgage brokers, lawyers, financial advisors, insurance partners in Walnut Grove on November 12th, 2025. That's giving it context. The model is what you want included in your output. We want an agenda, co-branding ideas, a budget, take-home resources, and follow-up action plan designed to generate 3 warm referral partner within 30 days. That is the model. The persona is really, really important, which is to act as a relationship marketing strategist who has coached 1,000+ agents on building cross-industry referral funnels. It's amazing when you give a prompt a persona, especially if it's a creative task, the outputs go through the roof. And so giving it a persona, and we'll show you the ways that we do that, is really, really important. The format is a turnkey playbook, and the voice is a collaborative win-win tone. So those are all the elements of a perfect prompt. Now, let's talk about custom instructions. This is very, very interesting. 40% of the audience says that they're intermediate users. And when I get to this point, I say, hey, who's using custom instructions? And about 4% of the room puts up their hands. And you cannot identify yourself as an intermediate user and not be using custom instructions, because this is the number one thing you can do to take your large language models, your AI interaction, from 20 miles an hour to 100 miles an hour. So instantly right then, it goes from 40% of the room saying that they're intermediates, and I know that only 4% have a chance to be intermediates because they're using custom instructions. It's so, so important. In fact, it's an entire module in our training program. Module 3 is all going to be about building amazing custom instructions, but I'm going to show you the impact of custom instructions. This is with custom instructions turned off. I'm going to ask ChatGPT, what do we do and why do we do it? And it's going to try to answer as best it possibly can. It says, at its core, humans, we do things to survive, find meaning, and connect with others. It's going to go through biological needs, emotional, physical needs, cultural and social influence, pursuit of meaning and purpose, curiosity and exploration. It's trying to answer the question, what do we do and why do we do it? But if I pop into ChatGPT and I turn our custom instructions on and I press save, and I ask that exact same question, what do we do and why do we do it? We get a very different answer. At the Thorne Maisie Bongers Real Estate Group, what we do, we sell homes with purpose. We guide buyers with expertise. We foster relationships. We support our community. Why we do it? We have a passion for empowering our clients, commitment to excellence, connecting to our roots, and building legacies, right? The response is very, very different, because when you use custom instructions, every single time you interact with the large language model, or in this case, ChatGPT, it knows who you are, it knows what you do, and most importantly, your style, tone, and voice, so it sounds like you. Now, there's a lot of us who are saying, oh, I can tell that listening description was written by AI. Yes, because ChatGPT natively has its own voice. And if we're not using custom instructions to ensure that it speaks like us, it's going to speak like itself. And we as a population are starting to recognize ChatGPT's voice. But you can't tell anything we put out publicly is AI driven or created because it's not in ChatGPT's voice. It's in our voice. It's in our voice. These are our custom instructions, right? And remember, there are 6 elements to a perfect prompt. In the top left-hand corner, it has our persona. In this case, this is our custom instructions for our internal copywriter. And the bottom right-hand corner, it has our team's style, tone, and voice. And our style, tone, and voice is this. It's Malcolm Gladwell's narrative depth. It's Nate Silver's analytic precision with Joseph Sugarman's engaging storytelling and David Allen's actionable clarity. Now, I only know 2 of those authors. But at the beginning, I was trying to articulate what our team style, tone, and voice are. We're professional, but we're laid back. We're this, but we're that. And it was always sort of hit and miss. So I have this idea. What if I could train ChatGPT to identify the authors and their specific skills that speak like us? And because ChatGPT and large language models has read everything Malcolm Gladwell's ever put out, everything Nate Silver's ever put out, and so on and so forth, not to write like them, but that mixture of authors write just like us. And so now when we put out content, it always sounds like us because it's using these custom instructions. And like I said, in Module 3, we'll show you exactly how to build this paragraph and custom instructions. And we'll be talking about why I'm talking about modules here in a little bit. But this is so important. This will take your large language models use case to the next level, and it will always sound like you. Custom instructions is such a big topic, and it's really, really important. Now, we've laid a little bit of foundation, and I know this is moving quick, but once again, I've got 16 hours easy to share stuff with you right today, and I only have an hour. So we have to sort of move through this, and I encourage you to go back and watch it again. Now we're going to get into some real world use cases, and I'm going to just take you to all the different corners of a large language model and give you one example. But I want you to focus on the forest and not the trees, not the particular example, but the overall takeaway of each one. And we're going to go through each one of these areas, and there's a bunch of them, but these are some of the ones that are most interesting, that bring value to you. So one of the things large language models are really good at is analyzing data. And for us, there's a lot of opportunities to get a hold of data about sales, about selling trends, because that really is really great information for the public to know. And instead of waiting for the newspaper to print information that's 6 months too old, we can start seeing trends inside data. We can start predicting on what things are going to happen in ways that we couldn't do it ourselves because there's too much data. So these are all the sales of townhomes in Walnut Grove and Willoughby over a 13-month period, so we can have year over year. Now, my MLS system, we can just export this data into a CSV file, and then I can take those files out there. So I've got 2 CSV files about the data, and this is the prompt I'm going to give it. And I'm going to say, here's some CSV files and sold data from Willoughby from February 1st, 2024 to February 28th, 2025, and also the same thing from Walnut Grove. I want you to create an exquisite interactive dashboard. Not an interactive dashboard, an exquisite interactive dashboard. Remember, it will do what you ask it to do. And I want you to focus on sales prices, sales volume, days on market, and other key data points around price, volume, and time that compare them to neighborhoods. And for each one of these components, I want you to find out key insights, the market impact, and the changes in trends. And I also want you to do this with our brand colors in mind. Now, in this case, I'm using Claude. I take those 2 CSV files and I drag them into Claude. There it has all that data, thousands and thousands and thousands of data points. I copy and paste my prompt in, and I run that off. Now, this is sped up a little bit. This took about 2 minutes. Extended thinking is on. First thing it's going to do is analyze all that data. It's going to find out what's happening with the trends. And now that it's found out what's happening with the trends, it's going to write code to write an interactive dashboard, right? And it's going to be in our brand colors. And there you go. We have this interactive dashboard. And now we can open that up into full screen. And look at this, it's absolutely incredible. This is Willoughby versus Walnut Grove, and you can see how interactive it is. There's monthly trends over the year. There's the key trends, market impact. There's an executive summary and predictions that's happening for sellers, for buyers, and market predictions. Then we click over here to the price analysis. It's going to go through the price analysis. It's going to give the market impact. We pop over to market velocity, and we're talking about days on market, and it's going to show the difference between the two neighborhoods. And once again, market impact and trends. And then we can go look at property types. All that information presented in this way that you could put out into a newsletter. You could put that on your website. To analyze data, it's amazing what you can do when you analyze some data, and you could do it for a bunch of different ways, but that's just one use case to show you. The next great thing is its ability to access the web, not only to get up-to-date information, but to, instead of it using all of its knowledge, to sort of focus its knowledge in one particular place. And so this is an example that I'm going to show about creating some social media content, right? And so this is our website. And I'm going to pop over to the blog section, and I'm just going to grab a URL on this blog post about the MLS Realtor.ca versus the MLS system and maximizing the visibility of people's listings. And then I am going to use this prompt this prompt basically says, using your web browsing feature, I want you to go to that website. I want you to read the blog post, and I want you to create 4 to 7 standalone Instagram reel scripts in our team's voice, structured exactly the way we want it structured, right? We want the first sentence to be this way. We want the body to have this. We want the call to action to be this way. So it's very, very repeatable, right? Giving it a really, really great prompt. So it's going off, it's reading the blog post, and now it's creating those 4 to 7 Instagram reel scripts, and you'll see that it's formatted exactly the way we want them in just a few seconds. So here's reel number 1, the opening statement, the body of that reel, the call to action. Reel number 2, the perfect opening statement, the way that our team likes it. We don't like questions at the beginning. It's structured 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Instagram reel scripts. And so you can see very quickly that I could put 30 or 40 Instagram reel scripts in front of Trish, and she can say, okay, let's record that one right now. Now, if you don't blog yourself, but you work on a brand, especially if it's a larger brand, there's tons of blog posts out there that your brand puts out that you can just say, okay, go to this, read this blog post, create me some Instagram reel scripts. But the key is that 80-15-5 rule. It's formatted the exact way we want it in our voice. And so you can do the same thing for you. But the web search feature is amazing because you can say, okay, go there and get this information. The next thing I want to show you is ChatGPT's ability to see. And it's incredible. I'm going to show you how it can see an image, but it can see documents. It can see a lot of different things. But it's absolutely incredible how it can see not only just its factual ability to see drywall and 2x4s, but to interpret what that drywall and 2x4s mean to a potential buyer and seller. So I'm going to grab a photo of a kitchen of a listing that we've just sold. I'm going to drag it in there, and I'm going to write this prompt. Now, it's a very, very simple prompt. You've seen some very complicated prompts, but the prompt reads, review this image, then write an engaging paragraph about it for a listing brochure. Also in bullet point form, list the top 8 features to be included in this brochure write-up. Now, remember, it can be very, very simple because it already knows it's a copywriter. It already knows who we are and what we do. And it's going to write it in our team's style, tone, and voice automatically because we've added those to custom instructions. And when you see the paragraph that it's going to write here right now, it will sound just like us. Might not sound like you, but it's exactly the way our team would write a paragraph about a kitchen in one of our listings. So I go ahead and fire that off, and it's going to analyze that image, and then it's going to write the write-up for that brochure. And there it is. Step into the sun-drenched kitchen and dining haven where timeless elegance meets modern convenience. It's there. But the most important and interesting thing is the top 8 features. Bright open concept layout with direct access to the outdoor living through French doors. Absolutely accurate. White custom shaker cabinetry, ample storage space, soft close hardware. Made up soft close happened to be right. Center island with waterfall quartz, right? Professional grade stainless steel appliances, including double wall oven invented hood range, designer lighting package, chandelier over the dining room table, plus adjustable pennant fixtures, absolutely. Durable tile flooring in the prep zone, paired with rich hardwood in the dining area, yep. Subway tile backsplash, and a dedicated coffee and beverage station integrated into the cabinetry. And so it's unbelievable. Its ability to see and then interpret what that means for a buyer or seller. And this is this multimodality. Once again, I just showed you an image of a listing, but it could be a document. It could be HOA fees or HOA documents, which we'll get that to in a sec. But remember, it can see not just the text, not just interpret, but it can see the way we see and infer what those things mean as far as lifestyle. And when it comes to real estate, it's amazing. Now, recently, about 3 months ago, ChatGPT 4.0 came out and changed image creation for everybody because they were finally able to nail wording in images, which is sort of being this little bit of this holy grail for image generation, is its ability to do text. And when we're talking about real estate, that's kind of important because we can't use artificial images of our community. We can't use artificial images of a listing because they're real things and they're real places. But now that it can do text, it's very, very interesting. Now, when a new feature comes out, the first thing I do is have fun. You've got to have a little bit of fun. So create an image of Brian Buffini singing an emotional duet with Celine Dion. We want it to be cinematic still, dramatic lighting, a mid-range shot. There you go. And we send it off and we get this great image of Brian Buffini and Celine Dion singing an emotional duet. Now, we can also then say, take this image and make a video out of it. And so now it takes that image and it makes this video of Brian Buffini and Celine Dion having a bit of a duet there. So first thing you do is have a little bit of fun. And now you get back to real use cases of it. So we want to create a modern, clean infographic about Langley, BC. Now that it can do text, it's got our branding. You've seen our branding before. I put a little bit of sales stats in there. And in about 10 seconds, it comes back with this perfectly structured infographic about the real estate, Langley, BC real estate snapshot for March 2025, right? Or we talk about this deep research, right? We talked about this becoming an ebook. Well, we need to have a cover for our ebook. And so now we can create the Pathway Home, a roadmap for Langley first-time home buyers. That is certainly the architectural and the landscape of Langley, BC. And those can be created really, really easy too as well. So it's amazing the ability now to take images to go to the next level. Now, I believe the ultimate AI starter kit for people for people that are at the beginning stage is the paid $20 a month ChatGPT account paired with the free Google's Notebook LM platform and then paired with the free Perplexity. So let's talk about Notebook LM right now. So Notebook LM is a place where you can put information into a box, a secure box, and only analyze the information that's inside that secure box. So you can take a bunch of deep research about how all these amazing companies all over the world create amazing customer experience. Take all those deep research, put it into a box, and then say, how can a real estate agent in Langley, BC take these principles to elevate their client care experience in a real estate world for buyers and sellers? And it will only look at that information and give you results out of that. The other thing you can do, because it's secure, we can start looking at documents, right? So in Canada, every single time we get an accepted offer for a listing for a buyer or a seller, we have to do something called a deal sheet. It typically takes about 10 minutes to complete, and these are fully completed contracts of purchase and sale. This is Oscar the Grouch's garbage can that we're selling, and the buyer is SpongeBob SquarePants. And this document asks things like who's the buyer, who's the seller, what was the deposit structure, all that sort of stuff. Typically takes about 10 minutes. You can see we're in Notebook LM, and on the left-hand side, we have Oscar's listing, and we have SpongeBob's offer. And I paste in this pre-done template of our deal sheet, and I just simply say, complete this form. And in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds, we have a perfectly finished document. There's the deal sheet. Here's the contract rate. Here's the property address. Here's the listing agent. Here's the buyer's agent. Here's the seller. Here's the buyer. Here's the transaction. Here's the price. Here's the deposit. Here's the completion dates. Here's the subject involved, and here's the commission calculations. Something that would take me 10 minutes to do, now takes me 6 seconds. Remember, I told you could reduce time on task by up to 80%. For what takes you 5 hours, takes me 1. Well, in this case, for what takes you 10 minutes, takes me 6 seconds. So that's a much, much higher ratio. But that's just an example of how this technology is amazing. Now, let's take it to the next step. Let's talk about strata documents. In Canada, we call them strata documents. You guys call them HOA documents. Here we've got about 750 pages about this complex down in Fort Langley called the Waterfront at Bedford Landing. And we've got 2023 minutes, 2024 minutes. We've got the budget, financial statements, bylaws, rules, depreciation report, Form B, and all this information. And what we're going to ask it is to please summarize any major changes proposed or passed in the minutes of any AGM. Because it's not only important what is passed, it's also what didn't pass. Meaning they may have voted it down in 2024, but that doesn't mean that the problem's gone away and it's something we have to deal with in the future. So in a few seconds, we're going to fire that off. It's going to read 750 pages of the most exciting documentation. And there you go. It's going to write down everything it found, what was passed, what wasn't. And we have to make sure it's accurate. And you can see after everything, there's a number. You hover over the number, you click on it, and it takes you exactly where it found that information in the document. So when you go through, you can verify that it's accurate very, very quickly, saving hours and hours and hours. You can have this on your phone, right? You get a phone call from a realtor asking you about what the shed regulations is for the HOA, right? And you can just type in there and say, what are the shed rules? And it'll take you right to the document, right to the place, and give you the answer. In fact, we have a standard template that we say, can you have a barbecue? What are the guest policies? What is this? What is that? And just quickly, roughly gets us all those answers that we want initially when we're submitting the listing, things we might want to put into the listing description or highlight in other places. But I could spend 2-3 hours on Notebook LM. And once again, just start showing you some of the opportunities. It's an amazing, amazing tool. So here's the question. Are you feeling overwhelmed? And I wish this was live because I would hear you guys say, yep. Because I know what this is like. I've given this presentation before many, many times. It evolves, of course, every week as things change. But one of the things is people are like, I feel overwhelmed, but I'm really excited about it. I feel overwhelmed, but I can see the opportunities. And that's the reality, this just scratching the surface. So I want to give you a little bit of history of what was happening. I mean, I love interacting with people. I get off stage and there's this long line of people asking questions, and they're big on like, now what? Now that I know it's a big opportunity, now that you've shown me the 30,000 foot view and we're just scratching the surface, now where do I go? And it's super, super exciting that I've teamed up with Buffini & Company, and we've worked really, really hard bringing you the Buffini AI Bootcamp. And we're going to talk about it here in a couple of minutes. There's still some things that I want to show you. But if you are feeling overwhelmed and this is moving too fast and a lot of it's going over your head, that's exactly why we've built this training program, to slow it down, to build on it, to give you the skill so that not only will you not be left behind, but you will absolutely be able to capitalize on this amazing opportunity that's presenting every single one of us in our industry. But before we get to that, there's still some more stuff I want to go through. Advanced voice mode on your cell phone is absolutely incredible. Let me just show you how it works here. Advanced voice mode, it's on your desktop now too as well, but it's this little button here, right here with looks like a little sound cloud there. And it's absolutely incredible. I use it all the time. And you're able to talk to ChatGPT just like you would talk to anyone else. And we were talking about it earlier, especially when we're talking about webs, is to focus its focus on just a blog post you've written. But the truth is, you're an amazing expert in this industry. And so instead of using all of the large language models expertise, we want to use your expertise. You have the stories about when someone listened to you about staging and when they didn't, and how it turned out. You've got insights about your marketplace that ChatGPT just won't have. You understand those nuances. So one of the things you're able to do is empower it with your knowledge by asking it to ask you some questions. So the example I do all the time, and I use it, I say, hey, chat, and it says, hey, Michael. I say, can you ask me 7 to 10 questions about what's happening in the current real estate market here in Langley, BC, the answers would help buyers and sellers that are thinking about entering the real estate market. It would help educate and bring value to them. Now, I want you to listen to every single one of my answers, and I want my answer to inform the next question that you ask. And at the end, I want you to take all those answers and I want you to create a real estate market update that I can share to my clients, or I can post on my website, or I can put it out as an email. And then it will just ask you the questions, like hiring a newspaper reporter to interview you. And you can just go ahead and answer those questions. And this is what the output looks like, right? In minutes, out with a walk with your dog, it asked me 7 to 10 questions, and it used quotes. It used things I said with using a perfect prompt. And I can share the prompt with you, and we do in the training, about how to take just a conversation and turn it into amazing, valuable content, because you are the expert. Go for a walk and say, hey, chat, I want to talk for 30 minutes about everything I know about staging. I want you to ask all these questions. I want you to ask me times that it went well and didn't went well. Clients listened to me, they didn't listen to me, how it impacted the sale price. And then I want you to write a chapter in our ebook about the power of staging. And then when you get back to your computer after walking with your dog, you'll have the first draft, an 80% finished first draft of a chapter for your new ebook, just by having a conversation with AI, and you being the absolute expert. The last piece of a AI starter kit that I was talking about is Perplexity, and I use it all the time. It's absolutely amazing. I use the free version of it, and I don't really Google things anymore, which is very interesting, and we're going to have to figure out what that means for organic traffic for our business. But I use Perplexity all the time, and I'm going to show you a couple examples on how we use it right now. But it's the third piece of a great AI starter kit. And it's a place that you can go to, and you can curate all of the internet's information really, really quickly. And instead of giving you one answer from one website, it's going to go to 25 websites and then give you an answer that brings you the best value of all of them. Now, if I was doing deep research, I would still do deep research through Gemini or through ChatGPT. But real simple questions that you would normally ask Google, I would encourage you to go to Perplexity, and you'll start to see how it's different. So in this example, I'm meeting Bruce Johnson, and if a lot of you are south of the border that are watching this, Bruce Johnson is an amazing realtor out in Ontario. He's one of my dearest friends, a bit of a legend. So I'm meeting Bruce Johnson from Wasaga Beach soon. That's all I said to Perplexity. Can you compile a detailed profile that includes his backgrounds, his interests, and any personal insights? At the end, please list actionable ways to build a meaningful connection with him. So I put that in Perplexity, and I fire that off, and you're going to see how very quickly, it doesn't give me one answer from the internet. It goes through and looks and looks and looks. You can see there, it's already looked at 14 websites. Now it's up to 20 websites, and I think it ends up at about 28 websites. And then it gives me the output. Professional background, he's a realtor with RE/MAX. He did Motorcycle for Miracles that's now raised $1 million for sick kids, Children's Miracle Networks. Personal connection, his charity work. Bruce met his wife Mary in the Arctic in 1995, and they got married in 1997. In 2024, Bruce was diagnosed with an aggressive form of lung cancer, and he remains positive, and he's a great human being. His key traits: magnetic personality, resilience, and optimism, commitment to his community, and then ways that I connect with him. Acknowledge his charitable work for Children's Miracle Network, discuss his shared interest, show empathy given his recent health challenges, and highlight our mutual goals. So you can see in very, very short order the ability to go out there and do some research with a tool like Perplexity that helps you identify ways of making meaningful connections with people. Right? Find out what makes them work and find a way to connect with them in a very, very human way. So here we go. We're finishing up, and you've all heard of the Pareto principle, this idea that 20% of your activities produce 80% of the results. And I really believe the 20% of the activities that produce 80% of the results for us is our client care, creating an amazing experience, following up with our clients, doing client events, sitting across the table for buyer presentations and for listing presentations, and being with them through these really complicated and emotional moments of their lives. I really think that's where our business is built. That 20% of their business that creates 80% of the results, AI would have a very hard time doing. And you don't want AI to do those things anyway, right? You're the expert. You know, you want to be able to do that. But the other 80% of our business still needs to get done, right? Doc prep, systems, management, data analysis, all those things, market insights, SOPs, all these things still need to get done. Well, that's the stuff AI is really, really good at, right? And so if you can streamline that stuff, turn that 1 hour, 5-hour project into 1 hour, you can free up a couple hours each day so you can do more of the 20%. You can sit with your client longer, right? You can pursue things you couldn't get to. You can find a little bit of balance for your family, right? It's streamlining that 80% behind you, and then with that freed up time, doing more of the stuff that grows and impacts your business in the most meaningful way, and that is the human connection. So that's how I'd love you guys to see this. The last thing I want to go through is this idea that like, if you can acknowledge what happened with the internet in 1995, if you can acknowledge the fact that you are going to use AI, AI is going to impact every aspect of our personal and professional lives. If you know that you're going to do it, I really encourage you guys to be adopters and not adapters. I'm an adopter. I see change like I did in 1995 and said, how can this change bring opportunity? How can it give me an advantage over other people? How can I see this change as an absolute positive, as a way to grab land? And then there's the adapters, the people that change because it's too painful not to change. Now, the thing about those people is that they had to change anyway. They had to do all the things I had to do, but because they did it just to stay relevant, they never benefited from making that change. So if you know you're going to change anyway, change now. Grab land, build your business, do the things that people aren't going to do as they sit back and wait. And the other thing too about digital divide, as this becomes faster and faster and faster, and the digital divide between the people that have made the jump and haven't starts to become wider, it's actually harder to make the jump down the road, where now it's a little bit easier to make the jump, right? And so I really, really encourage you guys to take that adopter mindset and change now and really win because you have changed. The opportunity is massive, and it's not an hour webinar. It's not a 16-hour webinar. It's so much bigger than that. But hopefully I've encouraged you. Hopefully those people that identified themselves as intermediates see themselves as beginners. And that's not a negative thing. That's a really, really exciting thing. That means the opportunity is much bigger than you thought it was. And maybe you've realized you might need some help getting to that intermediate or to that expert level, because the opportunity is so big. And that's where we've come in. That's why we've built the AI Bootcamp with Buffini and Company. And I'm really, really, really proud of this. It's been a whole lot of work, but here's why we developed it. I started speaking on stages on AI, but previously I spoke a lot about being paperless. And then for years and years, I went all over North America and Europe, a lot of times with my good friend, Jesse Peters, teaching agents how to leverage video inside the real estate business. And when AI came along, there's a lot of people in this industry that know that I'm an early adopter. And so they started asking me questions about AI in September, well, probably about January, February of 2023. And I said, yeah, I can help out. And I started helping people out. And because my previous time on stage and presenting and coaching other agents, it was just a natural fit. And so over the last 2.5 years, I found myself on the biggest stages in the real estate industry sharing what I know. Now, after I give a presentation like this, like all of you, you're saying, now what? And for years and years and years, I had really no answer. And so I was giving this presentation back in 2024 in Las Vegas and at the Mandalay Bay Arena, and a long line of agents after I got off stage were sitting there and asking me questions. And I love that. I love that. I'm one of you. I'm an agent. I get it. and Buffini and Company were in the audience, and Darren came up to me and said, Michael, what is the number one question that long line of agents are asking you? And I said, oh, it's simple. It's one question, and it's by a country miles the most popular question, and it's, now what? Now that I've heard you present, now that I know the opportunity is so big, now that I know that it's a lot bigger than I thought it was, now that I understand it's going to impact every aspect of my personal and professional lives, now what do I do? And I went, I don't know. And Buffini and Company goes, Michael, will you help us fix that problem with us? And I said, absolutely. That's nothing more I'd love to do. And that built the relationship that I have now with Brian Buffini and Buffini and Company. And they've been remarkable at every single moment building this program. I had very high thoughts about the quality of humans inside this company, as I've been in and around Buffini for the vast majority of my career. But getting to know these humans, they're remarkable. And they want the same thing I want. They want agents to succeed and to build businesses that impact their lives and the lives of others. So that's why we developed it. So the next question is, how can it help? And we talked about this a little bit. But we're telling you that you're going to jump your productivity by 80%. You're going to jump your quality of output by 40%. And we're going to give you 2 hours of your life back each day if you take this and you implement it into your business the right way. That's what we're going to give you. 80% jump in productivity, 40% jump in quality, and 2 hours back each day. So what's included in the training program? It's live sessions every month. They're live for a couple of reasons, because we want to interact with you. We want to do the Q&A. We want to do that. But it's moving so fast that we need to adapt as things continue to change to bring you the most relevant information. And these videos are all on you. You can watch them a bunch of times. In fact, I encourage it to you. I think if you believe you're a beginner, once we get to Module 6, I really encourage you to go back and watch Module 1 through Module 6 again, because now that you've built that skill, you're going to start seeing opportunities that perhaps you didn't see the first time. Everything's going to be a real world specific application, especially in real estate. Once again, I'm a practicing real estate agent. There is nothing I've shared with you that I haven't put into my business to make sure that it works. And Module 2 is coming up, which is all about the ins and outs of ChatGPT and showing you how to use projects and custom GPTs and custom instructions and all these amazing things. And the amount of prompts and giveaways and templates that you get, it blows my mind. I'm so excited about the modules coming up, because I know the things you're going to get that you're going to be able to put into your business. So you're going to get every single time I share a prompt, every single time I share a template, you get that, and then you get the real world applications that you can use and put into your business. So just to give you an idea of what we have coming up over the next year, Module 1 came out on June 11th. It's already there, ready to recording. July 16th is next, leveraging ChatGPT. Then we talked about establishing your voice. We're going to teach you how to make custom instructions so that it knows who you are, it knows what you do, and it knows your style, tone, and voice. Then we're going to teach you the basics of crafting effective prompts. We're going to tell you how to apply it. We're going to take prompting to the next level. We're going to show you the amazing ways that all of you are going to use AI in December. And then we're going to start to do data analysis, and it keeps going on and on and on with incredible value. I'm so excited for your guys' training. And we're listening to the Q&A and the feedback, and we're bringing more and more value. It's going to be an absolute jam-packed 12 sessions, and then we'll build off there, and then it will just keep going and going and going. And the feedback already has been absolutely overwhelming. So we do have a promo code for everyone that's watching this webinar right now. You can use the promo code RISAI, or you can go to buffini.com/RISAI, and you'll get 50% off, or $50 off your first year. Module 2 goes out on July 16th, which I believe is next week for the time that you guys are watching this recording. That's going to be an amazing session. Hopefully, if you guys can sign up right away, you can go back and watch Module 1 before we got Module 2, because each session builds off the next module. So there you go. The replay of the video will be available for you shortly. So keep an eye on your email link. And I just want to thank you guys very, very much for having me come and present to all of you. Once again, just absolutely scratching the surface. This is an amazing opportunity. Those people that can see this as an opportunity and see this as a really, really positive thing, I encourage you to jump on it. It's going to transform your business in so many ways. The thing I am most excited about this training program is watching how all of you are going to implement it into your business in ways that I never dreamed of. And that is absolutely, absolutely so exciting. So thanks for having me today, and we'll see you soon.